Hold on, there we go. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As I mentioned before in the previous segment, we are going to talk about Stephen Curry and what the Golden State Warriors should look into doing going into the trade deadline and going into the season. Now, the reason why I brought up this is because the games over this weekend have been very, very hectic. Also, quick update on Joel Embiid and his injury. He will undergo a procedure, on his meniscus injury, and after the procedure, it will give all of us a better idea of when he will return. So, I personally think he's going to be deactivated for the entire season, but we will see going into the future. And before I get into Stephen Curry, I just have one question for all of you. Did you see my Nets? Did you see those Brooklyn Nets out there? Did you see them? Cam Thomas had 40 points last night. That is not last night, 2 nights ago. That was absolutely beautiful. Great stuff from him. We all know how good he is at basketball. He was getting compared to Michael Jordan in scoring. Like, being compared to Michael Jordan in scoring is just goated levels of play. Obviously, he is an absolute bucket. Can't forget about Miles Bridges either. He dropped 23 points as well. Lonnie Walker also wanted to get in on the show too, dropping 20 points in a great win for the Nets over this weak Philly team that is still trying to figure it out with Joel Embiid being gone. It is just a beautiful day over there in New York right now. I mean, obviously, boo-hoo for the Knicks and losing, but let's go Nets! That's exactly what we needed. The real problem were the pieces in the starting lineup for the Sixers. Kelly Oubre was horrible that night, and Maxey was just chucking up a bunch of shots because he was scared not having Embiid, and the shot attempts were like, he had as many points as shot attempts, 23 for 23. No disrespect to Tyrese Maxey or any of those players. Obviously, they are great players. You know that. But I am a Brooklyn Nets fan, and we beat them. We stomped them out of that arena. Yes, sir. They have figured it out. But I bet they wish they had Ben Simmons now. Speaking of Ben Simmons, let me just be upset for a minute. He had 0 points. Yes, 0 points against Philly. And he wanted to talk on the media saying things like, I got grown men crying in the stands. Like, shush. Don't talk. You had 0 points. And you played 14 minutes. Shush. Please get him off my team. Please. But I digress. That's me being a fan. Now let's go move on to the main segment of the show, which is Stephen Curry dropping 60 points and losing. Now, I can guarantee you LeBron is somewhere in a corner screaming, that's how it feels. Because this is the most points that I've seen Curry score in a loss. This is the 3rd time in the last 2 weeks that that an NBA player has dropped 60 points or more and ended up losing. Karl Anthony Towns and Devin Booker are the other 2 players, as you can remember if I covered them in previous podcasts. To put this stat in ridiculous perspective, from 2010 to 2023, there have been 4 players to score 60 and lose. And those 4 players, like one of them is Devin Booker, one of them is Damian Lillard, but there have been 4 players to score that many points and still end up in the loss. So we have 3 players do that in the span of 2 weeks. This season has been absolutely insane in terms of scoring. This is the first instance where Curry actually looks like the only good player on his team and the only person who can do anything offensively on that team. Like, the previous games, as I mentioned before, as a LeBron fan, actually, before I get into it, as a LeBron fan, I'm smiling super hard because this is the first time in a while where he's doing whatever he can and he can't get anything to work. This is something that LeBron has had to deal with every single time, both in his career and going against his stacked teams. And the talk from the fans saying Curry is better than him just irks me. Absolutely irks me, but I digress. Trae Young went off this game with 35 points, showing everyone why he deserves to be an all-star. He is most likely to be an all-star since Joel and Julius Randle are injured. I have a feeling that he and Scotty Barnes will replace the both of them in the all-star game, but we will see how that goes. As I mentioned before, the other players that had to deal with scoring 60 and losing were Karl Anthony Towns and Devin Booker. Now, Karl Anthony Towns lost because his team was being immature that night, letting him constantly score, and at the end he couldn't close out because he was just chucking up a bunch of shots. Devin Booker lost because his team just couldn't do enough and they weren't showing up while he was doing everything. So why did Curry lose? I will blame it on two things. One, DeJounte Murray. He didn't have a great night the entirety of the night, but he hit his shots when they needed him to hit his shots in overtime. And my inner LeBron fan in me is dying to say, they lost because Steph Curry wasn't clutch and he can't close out, which might be true, but he did force the game into overtime. And that isn't the second reason why Steph Curry ended up losing. I'm not going to rip him a new one because obviously he sent the game into overtime, so he has to be clutch in order to send the game into overtime. Not going to say that he's not, and because that would just be disrespectful. But the second reason is actually Klay Thompson. So far this year, Klay Thompson has been anything but his usual self on both the offense and the defensive side of the ball. The only thing that Klay has going for him is that he can still flex that he has 4 rings. But his shooting, it's been the worst so far. This has been the worst he's ever shot this year from 3. And it's also the worst he's ever shot this year from the field in his entire career. And that is a clear problem because Klay's defense isn't as strong as what it used to be before his injury. So now that he doesn't have his defense, he needs to be able to hit on offense and he needs to be able to be efficient from the 3-point line. This isn't the same Klay Thompson that I feared all of those years before. He played 36 minutes last game and shot 4 of 19 for only 10 points. And he shot 2 of 13 from 3. That is not ideal if you're someone like Klay Thompson. Taking so many shots and wasting those possessions costed them the game. Curry literally had to do everything on his team. And his team ended up selling him, which is the only reason why he lost. He had to do everything on this team, and the team just couldn't perform. If Klay would have hit a few more threes, they would have won this game. They most definitely would have won this game. Klay has been really inconsistent shooter for the Warriors recently, and a lot of people are questioning if the Warriors should move on from him, seeing as he's just chucking up a bunch of threes and not making them. Draymond has also been thrown into the mix as one of the people that should be traded from Golden State, and this talk wondering if their time in Golden State is actually coming to an end. With all of this talk, we don't know if their time is coming to an end. I personally think the Warriors are going to keep these players and they're going to make them retire for their franchise because they gave them 4 championships, and that's just what they're going to do. That's just the right thing to do. So like all the athletes that give you a title and that give you that chance of being at the top. I personally think like that they're going to keep those 3 players. But on the other hand, Curry is still playing some of his best basketball. And now we're seeing like his talents get wasted, kind of like LeBron. So now he knows exactly how it feels. And with Jonathan Kuminga being on the rise right now, maybe now is the time to move on from one of your former star options to help build the team and to help give Curry some help. Because the goal every year is to win. So they have the pieces to trade away. Why not trade them away and give Curry valuable teammates? Well, the big 3 when they play together since 2021 are 36 and 34. However, when Curry plays with just Draymond and with Klay out, they are 33 and 8. So, once again, this shows the amazing value that Draymond Green actually provides for the team. So if you're Golden State and you're thinking of trading away anyone, don't let it be Draymond. Because that stat single-handedly proves his value. Being 33 and 8 with Stephen Curry and without having Klay Thompson is incredible for Draymond, and it really shows his production. The numbers don't lie. Draymond might not put up valuable numbers, but his value cannot be denied. No matter what the casual haters say, no matter how they interpret his points, his production, he is valuable, and it is proven time in and time out. So if there is anyone on the team that the Warriors should consider moving on from, it's probably going to be Klay Thompson. Him jacking up a bunch of threes the way he does just wastes possessions, in my opinion. And when they could be doing something else with the ball, like how I mentioned earlier, giving it to Kuminga. Ever since he called out Steve Kerr for not getting enough playing time, he's gotten his playing time, and he's been proven to be a total success. His overall production is improved tremendously for the team, proving that he can be an extremely valuable asset on the offensive side of the ball. And it's like he scores when he wants, and it's honestly really fun to watch. So with that in mind, I personally think that they should look into trading Klay Thompson, simply because of those of the numbers that I mentioned to you earlier. With Draymond Green and Stephen Curry in the rotation, you have a winning lineup with both of those guys in the rotation, because that's his pick and roll buddy. And with both of those guys in that lineup, you end up winning a bunch more games. So I personally feel like this is, if they are going to trade anyone, they should trade Klay Thompson. But I'm going to go ahead and quickly look at the standings real quick, just to see where Golden State is right now, because the Western Conference standings, they love to flip-flop all the time. Right now, they are completely out of playoff contention. So maybe since they are out of playoff contention, they might decide to keep their pieces just so they could keep them for the season, and then maybe get rid of them, see if they want to retire. I don't think they'd want to retire, but see if they want to go to another team and accommodate those needs. But I personally, right now, it doesn't look like Golden State's going to be really in a position to win. And I personally don't think, with how stacked this Western Conference is, I think now maybe they should hold off and wait until the next season. However, if they could get a very, very good, valuable player by only trading away one piece of their team, which is Klay Thompson, then I think they should do it and see how it comes out. But it'll be really tough seeing Klay Thompson in a different uniform. It'll also be really tough seeing Draymond in a different uniform if that ends up happening, because those big three have been together since 2014, 2015. They've been through everything together, and it's going to be really tough seeing them all go. A little update on the Golden State Warriors and their schedule. They're going up against my Brooklyn Nets. My Brooklyn Nets are favorited to winning because we are at home. So hopefully Stephen Curry just doesn't go off for 60 points again, because our defense is notoriously mid. So hopefully we can hold off on Stephen Curry, and Cam Thomas can drop him and score all of the points he needs, along with Mikal Bridges and all of those players. Hopefully they all have a great game, and hopefully, please, I hope that Ben Simmons can have a great game. And if he doesn't, I just want him off my team. That's what I really want. Just get him away, please. But with that, and before I go into another episode of crying, we are out of time for this third segment, so tune in for the fourth segment, where I talk about the NBA power rankings that have just been announced this morning. So tune in after this short break. I will be right back.